Let's take a look at the pro technique for using a Raybox. We usually want to produce a nice straight beam of light for our optics experiments. So let's plug in our Raybox and turn on the light. I'll turn out the lights in my room so we get a better view of what's happening. Right now I have the comb set up on the front of the Raybox to create a single slit of light, and this is what we get. A very unimpressively short beam of light. We notice the light appears to stop somewhere around here. This is usually not good enough for our optics experiments. So what should we do to fix this problem and make our beam appear longer? The Raybox is made of two parts. One is the light source itself and one is a cover. If we slide the light source back out along the cover, we can improve the length of our beam. Let's take a look with the lights off. Right now we have the short beam. I'll draw back the cover, and you can see the beam now appears to be longer. So the trick is to slide the cover back and forth until you find a nice long beam that will work well for your optics experiments. If it becomes annoying having to do this every time, or if it's always being bumped out of position, a handy blob of plasticine just squished in there helps to keep the cover at the ideal position for your experiments. If you need your ray to be even longer, you can actually tilt the front part of the Raybox upwards. There's sometimes where I even put a pencil underneath in order to get the length of the ray that I need. Why is the beam of light from the Raybox so short when the cover is nice and snug against the light source? Well, it's a design flaw of the Raybox itself. Let's take a look inside. The two key parts of the Raybox are the cover and the light source itself. The cover has a lens that's positioned near the bottom of it that helps to concentrate the beam of light to help it be brighter. If we take a look at the alignment of these two critical parts, what we discover is that the light bulb itself and the lens are misaligned. I will put them together backwards to help illustrate this. So what we notice here is that the light bulb is positioned higher up vertically than the lens itself. And when that happens, the light beam gets split into these two beams, one upwards and one downwards. Let's take a look at what I mean. Here I have a regular lens that's similar to the one that's found in the Raybox. And if I hold my light source higher above the surface here, we see that there is a beam that gets refracted downwards into our surface, and unfortunately it's very short. If I lower my light source relative to the lens, we can see that this beam is getting longer. And if I make it lower and lower still, the beam extends further and further. Our ideal beam would be one where the light source is just a bit higher than the lens itself, so the beam still points slightly downwards, but extends quite further along the surface that we're working on. Sometimes it could be tricky to get parallel rays that are long enough for our experiments. If we adjust the Raybox cover so that the rays appear parallel, and normally I would use a ruler to double check that, I can add the plasticine blob to help keep it in that position, we notice that the rays are only about 15 centimeters long or so. So what we can do in that case is tilt the front end of the Raybox upwards, and the rays now are visible for a much greater length. So this is a handy trick for your optics experiments.